Hello, welcome to the 12 Months Marathon Podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams. Episode 100. We have made it to 100 episodes. I'm going to talk to you today about a couple of things. I want to talk about some lessons that I've learned from doing 100 podcasts, and I want to talk a little bit about mental health and running, because it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month in June. I'm not a big fan of having like months and days dedicated to things. I think these things should be focused on all the time. But I wanted to talk about that particularly just because one of the main lessons that I've learned from doing 100 podcasts, from the people that I've spoken to primarily, because I've interviewed some amazing people on here, some really inspirational people. And there's a theme that comes out across the board. So I wanted to really talk about that. And plus, some things I've learned over the last 6 months in my own journey to improving mental health. So, number one, thank you to everybody that's listened. Thank you to if you're listening now. Thank you if you're a new listener. Thank you to everybody that's listened to me and got me to 100 podcasts. It was an idea that was suggested to me by my coach to do a podcast and talk about my experiences with running, marathon running, and my experience of working with people. And then I had an idea that maybe I should speak to some people. You know, when you're on social media, particularly on Instagram at 12 Months to Marathon, cheap plug, I do see some incredible people. I thought, well, let's get them on. Let's find out what's going on. And I think I'm a little bit biased, of course, because of the transformation journey that I've been on, in particularly around losing weight and changing my self-image. So I've had a lot of people on regarding that. The last episode that I've recorded, which is an interview, which will go out next week, is a very similar theme today. It is somebody that's had an incredible transformation, so stay tuned for that one. And I've interviewed a lot of people on that. And I think the one thing I would say, the biggest lesson that I've learned from all the people on here, bearing in mind we've had people from massive weight loss journeys to marathons, we've had people who have run marathons. You know, we had Andy on a few weeks ago, you know, the first triple amputee to complete the London Marathon. We've had similar things. We've had Anthony on, who broke the world record after for somebody who had a condition like his. He had a stroke. He had a brain tumor and a stroke and can't use the left hand side of his body, and ran the marathon, broke the world record, and also qualified for the World Championships for High Rocks. Those are just a couple of examples of people I can think of who have conquered fantastic adversity to achieve things. And then the everyday people. I mean, I've interviewed some of the people that I've worked with personally. Everyday people, just normal everyday people who have decided to go and do something incredible in the sense, which on the majority of the cases he's run a marathon. So I wanted to talk about the lessons that I've learned there. And I think the main theme that comes out is the fact that the ability to just be open-minded and curious. And it sounds really simple, but it's true, especially when it comes to running, because too many people make a judgment about what they feel is possible for them without even trying. Okay. They put obstacles in the way before they even try. And I promise you can do more than you think you can, because there are people doing that with less than you and less resources than you and quote unquote less time than you. You can't make more time. We have to be really important here. I deal with a lot of people who have got to try and squeeze marathon training in alongside a job, a family, everything else that goes on, a household, whatever it might be. And nobody has more time. People just allocate resources. Okay. So what we do is time, or whatever we want to call it, whatever it is a resource that we allocate, and we allocate that resource to what's important to us. So as Beth said, who was someone that I worked with in the London Marathon, who's a very busy professional woman with a family, who still ran the London Marathon, is you will always find a way to do whatever you want to do. People do what's important to them, and they demonstrate that through their actions, and that's a fundamental human truth. People say a lot and talk a lot, but the truth is people do what's important to them, and you'll see that through their actions. So if something's important to you, you will find a way to do it, and you will. And if it's not important to you, you won't, and that it also is okay, because I think one of the biggest problems with running, and this links into the mental health side, is that people think there's a should. So they think, well, I should run a 5K, 10K, half marathon, ultra marathon. And I think this is part of the problem, that this encourages the gatekeeping, and this encourages the elitism of, oh, you did a 5K, well, I've done a 10K. Oh, you're a 10K runner, I'm a half marathon runner. Oh, half marathon, I've run a marathon. And then the one that I get the most, unfortunately, is people, oh, well, I've done an ultra. Well, that's all great, all that's perfect. But what you've got to bear in mind, and this might help you if you're listening to this, is if you've achieved something that a previous version of you would never have thought would be possible, that's incredible. whether that's a couch to 5K or whether that's a 100-mile run. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Is it something that a previous version of you would have been amazed that you could do? And if the answer is yes, it doesn't matter. And this is part of the problem with the gatekeeping and the snobbery. And we get a lot of snobbery about who's the best at this and what's the best distance and what's the best pace. And what you've got to bear in mind is that there are people out there doing ridiculous things. There are people out there doing 250-mile runs. There are people out there, as we've recently experienced this year, doing sub-2-hour marathons and twice in one race. So there are people out there doing ridiculous achievements based on most of us that show what's possible for the human body. And that's great, but that tells us that we should just get on with what we're getting on with and we should just do what we do. Because if you're doing something that is difficult and challenging and stretching you, do that. And that could be anything. I follow a lot of people now on Instagram who are doing like, oh, I'm going to do this until I can walk a mile, or I'm going to do this till I run a mile. Now, for them, if somebody's struggling to get out of a chair, walking a mile is a fantastic achievement, and we should never criticize people for that. We should always support everybody who's on a journey. Because the truth is, as long as your behavior is not affecting anybody else, which it rarely is, then let people do what they want. Let people follow their own path. Let people follow their own journey. And most importantly, going back to my previous point, let people see what's possible for themselves. And you see what's possible for you. Because you don't know how that one kind word might encourage somebody, or that one snidey little comment on social media might put somebody off. I get it. It's an environment where it's prone to get reactions, and people are trying to get reactions. I see posts every day, and it's like that you're just doing that to get a reaction. And that's the problem with modern attention spans. We have to keep doing things to get eyeballs and get reactions instead of things that actually are meaningful sometimes. And that's just the game that we play. And we've always got to be a little bit careful of that, because sometimes people will post something or say something that is just designed to get a reaction. And if you react to it and get sucked into it, you end up going to places that you perhaps don't want to go. So the first thing I want to say is, number one, understand what's possible for you. Believe in yourself, which is a bit of a fluffy concept, but it is quite true. You have to say, I'm going to see where this journey takes me. And that's what I get from interviewing the people that I have on my own personal journey as well. Let's just see where this takes me. It might get you to a point where you go, that's it for me. I'm done at half marathon. I'm done at marathon, or whatever it might be. I'm done at 10K. It doesn't really matter. But you want to get to that point where you know your limit and you've taken yourself to that limit, because you'll always find a way. And it's amazing what you can maneuver around. I'm not a big fan of the word sacrifice. I don't think we should see anything as sacrifice. If you say something like, well, I'm going to sacrifice my social life for a marathon, I don't think sacrifice is the right word. I think it's better to think of it in terms of, well, for 16 weeks, if I need to prioritize something just for 16 weeks, that's okay. Do you understand? You're not sacrificing. It's about prioritization and saying, well, this is something I want to do that's incredible, which it is. A marathon is incredible. I'm biased, yes, but it is, I think. And people listening to this are runners on the whole, so I think most people would agree with that. Why not go all in for that thing for 16 weeks, prioritize that over other things, and then go back to whatever it was before? We can't always have whatever we want. And life's about trade-offs. And sometimes we have to trade off something for another thing. Like I run a group in the mornings, a group fitness program that I do in the mornings, and I say to the girls, well, you just traded off staying in bed to come here at 6 a.m. Now, one thing isn't better than the other. It's a trade-off. You know, you're trading off staying in bed for coming here. And obviously you can talk about the long-term benefits of exercise and blah, 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 I understand, but all that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that you have to always trade something off. There's always something you have to trade off, and it's how important is the thing you want to achieve. And if it's important to you, you will make that necessary trade-off for a period of time. I've got all the skills and resources and tools to be able to do quite amazing things, and probably better than I can do in terms of my body shape and all that sort of stuff. But there's got to be a point when you go, do I really want to go to that level and, you know, decrease the quality of my life trying to pursue something? And we have to have that conversation, and we have to look at those trade-offs. That's the first thing I want to say is, and I said this on the interview that I did recently, you might not be able to do all you find out, but find out all you can do. Okay? You might not be able to do all you find out, but find out all you can do. So a little bit of mental health, which is all linked in, really. It's all very similar things. The first thing to say is that what we have to acknowledge as human beings is you have feelings and emotions, and they broadly fit into positive and negative on a particular scale, yeah? And what I see a lot with running is people attach stories to things, good and bad, okay? I went to the gym this morning. I did a session this morning in the gym. It went well, but it didn't go as well as I wanted it to. And my tendency is to go onto Strava when it uploads and start talking negatively about myself and looking for a cheap payoff to try and validate something. And that's not useful. Okay. So if you're on a journey, and whatever that journey might be, that journey is going to have ups and downs. Things come and go. You have good runs, you have bad runs, you have days when you don't want to run, you have days when you don't want to run and you do, you have days when you don't want to run and you don't, you have slow runs, fast runs, whatever language you want to use, that is all part of the journey. And it's the stories that we attach to things that cause problems. And that's across all genders. Yeah. It's not specific to anybody. Yeah. So if you want to, going back to my previous point, do something, you have to be careful of the stories that you attach or the emotion that you attach to a data-driven thing. Running is a data-driven thing. Yeah. Example, I'm looking to run my first mile as an example. If you're looking to run your first mile, then you get data along the way. Today I did half a mile. It felt this way. Tomorrow I'm going to try for 0.6 of a mile and see how that goes. This is just data and information. And what you have to do is see it as data and information. And if you see it as data and information, you can then, in a neutral way, analyze it and make necessary changes without there being a story and without there being any attachment of identity to it. Because that's what we do. We do this in all walks of life, but I see it a lot in running. People attach their identity to something. I am a slow runner. That's an identity. Because and I've said this so many times, but I'll say it again, that needs context. Slow compared to who? Because compared to Sebastian Soare, we're all slow. Yeah? So it's what you're slow compared to whom? What's your benchmark? What's your context? And I think when people call themselves a slow runner, which you're entitled to do and it's your choice, but my advice is always the same. If you keep saying that to yourself, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy and arguably a limiting belief. And it's an identity thing. You're saying, I identify as a slow runner versus my name's John and I just run and I'm going to see where that journey takes me. Because if I'd have identified as anything when I first started my own journey, like I tried to do back in 2010 when I was like, I am not a runner. I am not a runner. I am not a runner. Did my first half marathon in 2011 and went, oh, actually, maybe I might be a runner. Maybe I could be. Let's see where this takes me. And all I did from 2011 when I started running, my weight loss journey and fitness journey started properly in 2005. But my running journey really started in 2011 when I did my first half marathon. I went, oh, let's see where this could take me. And I just explored. And that ended up where I am now, which is running's a big part of my life. I like other things. I like lifting weights. I like being strong. I enjoy high rocks, in inverted commas, the challenge of it. But running's become something I'm very passionate about and something that I like to help others with. And I wouldn't have got here if I hadn't have been curious and I hadn't have said to myself, okay, maybe let's just explore and let's get data and let's see. And the way to get data is with two things on the journey, really. So if, say, for example, you're doing Couch to 5K. When you get to 5K, I always say to people, you usually ask yourself one of two questions. Do I want to get faster or do I want to go further? Faster or further, faster or further. Some people just stick at 5K, get faster, park run, whatever it might be. Some people say, well, actually, let's explore. Let's go to 10 and let's see where I am then. When you get to 10, you look at the time commitment and so on of going further and you say, do I want to commit to something bigger? And then you decide. But what you don't do is attach any identity to it. You don't say, I am a slow 5K runner. I am a slow 10K runner. You just go on a journey. You look at the data neutrally, with acceptance, with peace, and move on. So that is probably the best piece of advice I can give you on mental health of runners is don't attach identity and story to things. Just look at what you do as data. If you're injured, heartbreaking, frustrating, it's just information. And the more you add story to it and identity to it, I'm injury prone is an identity thing, the more likely it is to happen again because you're identifying with it. I'm overweight, I'm a fat runner, fat runner, blah, blah. All these sort of things, if you want to do it, it's fine. But I guarantee a lot of it is identity. And you're looking to add identity and story to data. And that's what this is. It's just information. It's just data. And I promise you, you can do more than you think you can. And you'll get to a point when you might go, I don't want to do any more, go any faster, go any further, whatever. But find out. Don't attach labels. Don't tell stories. And don't add identity to what is just a data-driven thing, which is running. Yeah. So 2 things I want to finish with. I don't want this to go too long because I pride myself on keeping these in little bite-sized forms. Number 1, what's the biggest lesson I've learned from 100 podcasts? You can do more than you think you can. And be curious. And learn from people that have done extraordinary things because they're out there and there's dozens of episodes here that will validate that. And the second thing is running is about data and it's about information. It doesn't need story, it doesn't need identity, and it doesn't need anything else. It just needs you to look at the data, understand the data, and make the necessary changes, and do whatever's right for you and improve at the right rate for you based on what you want to do and what's going to make you happy. Nobody else. There's no gatekeeping. There's no standard. It's up to you what you do, and it's up to you to see where this takes you. So thank you very much for listening. If you're new to the podcast, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. And thanks for listening to the 100th episode. I'm really, really proud. And please, thanks to your support. If you are new to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, Apple or Spotify. If you're a regular listener, comment, review the podcast, drop me a 5-star review on Spotify. Again, very, very useful, very, very helpful. I appreciate every single one of you. If you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me at 12 Months to Marathon. Drop me a follow there for really daily content, tips, and funny stuff. And if you want to go to the link in my bio, you can join my free running community for the over 35s, where we can take you away from the noise of social media and we can connect over there. So again, I appreciate every single one of you for listening. Thank you so much indeed. And let's see where the journey takes us from here.